Hello there. Today I'm going to be reviewing a Darkwood Schiavona. This is their Type 1 Schiavona. This is a long-term review. Let's keep it in shot. Let's not pop it down there. This is a long-term review. This sword was actually bought for me by my partner and now fiance a long time ago. Let me think. Probably maybe 2007, 2008. So I've had this sword a long time. And it's not the oldest blade I have, but I have had it quite a significant amount of time, and it's had a lot of use. I'll just show you, just so maybe you can get an idea as to how much use it's had. Now, I will say that I've polished the crap out of this recently. It's not finished, but I have been tidying it up, because it's been in storage for 1.5 years since its last break. So this is one of those swords that keeps kind of being brought back to life. Now, in terms of the model, I believe I need to double check, because I've got some more blades coming from Darkwood at the moment, so I'll double check. I'm pretty sure this is the side sword 36-inch blade. I don't think it's a broadsword blade. But I've got a broadsword blade coming, so I'll compare and I can double check. So it's the 36-inch blade. It's got a threaded tang coming up into the cat's head pommel, and then you've got a nut with a cylinder that screws down on top of it. Now, when she got it for me, I didn't know when they added it, but you can now manually request a thumb ring to be, so when you hold it, you have a thumb ring for the thumb to go on, strangely enough. This doesn't have one. It was bought as a gift, so it came as it did. I believe it was a Christmas present, and a great gift to get. You're never disappointed when you get a Schiavona, and you're never disappointed when it's a present. So I had this sword. I used it a lot. It's got problems inherent to the way Darkwood make them, not due to the design of Schiavonas in general. Now, Schiavonas come in many different variants. This particular one, that's actually a Type 2. Okay, ignore what I said at the start about it being a Type 1. This is a Type 2 Schiavona. So you can tell it's a Type 2 from this part of the Schiavona. Just bring it up here. So you can see you've got this cage underneath with they're almost like fingers or feathers coming up, which is really nice on the hilt. But then you've got this extra section here where it has a row of sort of individual segments. And when you're looking at Schiavonas, the ones that don't have this, the very early ones, we tend to call a Type 1 Schiavona. Type 2 have these rows of extra details, and the more of them you have, the kind of more enveloped and enclosed the cage becomes. Just bring it back up. So this has one row, which makes it a Type 2. If it had 2, it would be a Type 2A. And then if it had 3 rows, the most complex, then it would be a Type 2B. So if you look at, your Oakshot's books, you'll find sort of the classification. Obviously, these are classifications used in modern times, by collectors, museums, people talking about swords. Historically, it's a Schiavona. Now, I'm going to be doing a separate video on the history of these swords because I've got quite a few of them. I've also got a number of them on order, and I've got an original, maybe another one coming. So I've got lots to talk about and lots to compare to. But that's not what this video is about. This is about this little chap. Now, the blade has taken a fair bit of wear over time. I wouldn't necessarily blame the blade for the damage, for the wear on it there. In fact, blame is not the right word. This is a sword that's had a lot of use. I've used it extensively in the club, in the HF. I fought my brother with it so many times, I just can't even remember how many. So we've had fight after fight with these swords, and him using other types of basket hilts. So yeah, they take a lot of wear. The hilt has taken a beating. It's been hit a lot. I don't know whether you can see some of the bends. Like there's, where is it? Oh, good grief, I can't see from there. Okay, that one. So you can see this kind of section here. Maybe you can see it's kind of bent half in. There's bends and slight distortions all over the hilt, and it's covered in marks and scratches and dings. Some of them partially hidden because I've given it a good rub down. But yeah, it's taken a beating because it's been used a lot, and it's stayed intact, which is good. A lot of cages like this break over time. But one problem I have had repeatedly, and this is something that comes up with Darkwood swords, at least in our experience, quite a lot, is breaks on the tang. So I'm not going to take this off now, but it's broken. It's been repaired at least twice, maybe even 3 times. I forget. And what tends to happen is it's got a threaded tang. The cat's head is free moving. So the cat's head pommel, you push on and then tighten the nut down. But this is tight at the moment, and I can still just about turn it. That's a very small amount. And what that means, when you're sparring, the cage comes down and pushes on the pommel a little bit. And over time, this starts to turn. And it turns, the nut maybe goes a little loose, although sometimes the nut doesn't have to move at all. Just things start to turn a little bit. And as you get a tiny bit of movement, that exposes the vulnerability of the kind of shoulder of the tang. And what I've had happen 2 or 3 times is that the threaded part of the tang shears off in the middle of a fight. And most recently it happened, I posted up some pictures, it was about 1.5 years, maybe even 2 years ago. I was in the middle of a fight and the tang snapped and it broke apart in my hand. Just the sword fell apart in front of me. And it was sort of, oh crap, not again. And I was thinking of getting another blade for it, but some kind soul offered to weld a new piece of threaded rod on, so they repaired the blade. The parts then went missing in a house move, and they were only refound about 2 or 3 weeks ago by my brother, Nick Thomas. So he handed all the bits back to me, and like all good swords, the broken sword was remade, and it's sort of come back to life and it's ready to fight again. It hasn't had a fight since I finished it off, but starting next week it's going straight back into action. So it's going back to the front line and it's going to start fighting because that's what it's for. Now looking at it, you can actually see, if I hold it straight, that the cage is not quite aligned properly with the grip. And that's because over time the grip compresses. So I've got a new grip coming from Darkwood, and I'm hoping when that happens, it'll push the pommel back a little bit so that this section of the cage won't rest on the pommel anymore. It resting on the pommel is a problem because it pushes it down and twists it, as I said earlier, and then eventually it pops off, and then you end up with the cage resting on the side of the pommel, and then it just keeps twisting it, and it's a mess. Now you won't notice this if you just use the sword for drill and a little bit of sparring. But at the AHF, we do a lot of fighting, a lot of sparring, and when you get a sword you like, it just comes out to play all the time. And hundreds or thousands of hours of fighting take their toll on these things, so I need mine to be right. Now the tip is not sparring safe, so you're going to have to tip it in some way. We use bullet casings or things like sword versions of archery blunts, and then with additional tape on them. Or using leather. Whatever you do, please make sure you make that safe. However you do it in your school, that will puncture targets. My overall impression, well, it was a present. So even if it was the world's worst sword, it would still be great. But it's not the world's worst sword. I actually really like it. I think it's a lovely looking sword. I think Darkwood did a good job. A lot of their swords can look quite crude. I think this is one of their nicer looking swords. It has a few inherent problems in the design. I'm not a big fan of I'm not a fan at all of the way that their tangs snap. Apparently they've got better with some of their blades now, so we'll see. I don't like the fact that the pommel free turns. So I've got lots of other Schiavonas, and one of the solutions to stopping the pommel turning is to have a slight indentation, a slight sort of flat cutaway in the bottom of the pommel that slots over the flat part of the tang. Only a little bit, maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe an eighth of an inch onto the tang, and then it tightens down. And that means the pommel can't turn. So the nut tightens down. It actually makes the whole thing much more solid. That's the way Donnelly made. I actually had a dagger made in a Schiavona style to match another Schiavona that I've got. Like I said, I've got a lot of Schiavonas. And the way he did it stops it twisting and keeps the whole thing nice and solid. That's a much better approach than the one that Darkwood uses. But saying that, it's a fun sword. I think it's a little bit too long. It's 36 inches, this one. Obviously with Darkwood, you can order any length you like. Personally, I think 34 inches is better for more of a broadsword Schiavona, but it's completely up to you. I know a lot of people prefer to go for more of a longer sidesword blade. I prefer something more broadsword-like, which is why I've ordered some more parts. It's a good sword. It's good enough that I've ordered another one, not the Type 2, but the Type 2B. So the fancier one with 3 rows going along here. So it's a much more enclosed hilt, more of a conventional basket, but in Schiavona style. And the new one I've ordered, I've got all the fancy bits. So it's going to have a brass cat's head. It's going to have a wire-wrapped grip. It'll have a fuller on a broadsword blade, and it'll be slightly shorter at 34 inch. So once that arrives, I'll review that, and you can see what it's like compared to this. Any questions, as usual, please pop them in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them. But here you go. This is the Darkwood Schiavona, Type 2 Schiavona. Thanks for watching.